Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying well. Guys, another day where Demetrius Andrade criticizes Canelo, basically saying that he was asked about Canelo fighting John Ryder, and he said, yeah, another easy fight. Guys, you know what? I actually think Andrade doesn't even get tired of like criticizing Canelo. It's so embarrassing, in my opinion, that this guy focuses so much attention on Canelo rather than on his own handlers and his own people not being able to deliver in big fights. But I used to like Andrade, not like him. I was never a huge fan, but I used to defend him. I used to protect him. Even on the live streams, if you guys remember, I always used to speak for Andrade at times. I felt, but you know, the constant barrage at Canelo and criticizing him, criticizing the fact that Canelo's last fight was against Golovkin. The fight before that, he fought Bivol. And now he's gonna fight John Ryder, a guy who just beat the guy that Demetrius Andrade was supposed to fight, or a guy that Demetrius Andrade was gonna fight, coming to the UK twice, negotiating twice with Zach Parker, right? And Ryder mauled that guy. And Canelo's fight against John Ryder is seen as a tune-up. However, if John Ryder was to fight Demetrius Andrade, that would probably be his toughest fight in his career. John Ryder beat Danny Jacobs in a fight that I don't think that John Ryder won, but he won that fight against Danny Jacobs, got the decision. Then I thought he got robbed. I thought he beat Callum Smith. I thought John Ryder beat Callum Smith. Anyone that beats Callum Smith can fight, right? Well, in my opinion, he didn't win the fight. He didn't get the decision against Callum Smith. But anyone that beats Callum Smith, or in my opinion, beat Callum Smith, didn't get it on the scorecards, is a good fighter. Or anyone that runs Callum Smith close is a good fighter. Yeah? So John Ryder is by no means a bum. But you see, Canelo will make that fight look easy because John Ryder's not on Canelo's level. So Canelo will knock him out or beat him. But that's not an easy fight by any stretch. If Demetrius Andrade had trouble with Liam Williams, who's really a blown-up 154-pounder, then I'm pretty certain John Ryder would give Demetrius Andrade the work. And I can tell you this, John Ryder is much, I mean, it's not, why am I even comparing the guy that Andrade's fighting? But John Ryder, if he gets in the ring with Demetrius Andrade, with Andrade being inactive, that firstly, I wouldn't advise that fight for Demetrius Andrade. Going off John Ryder's recent performances, the way he mauled, because I don't think Demetrius Andrade would have beaten Zach Parker the way John Ryder did. And I certainly not sure that, you know, Demetrius Andrade would do well against Callum Smith, because Callum Smith has got a granite chin. He's never been down in his whole career. He fought Canelo and we saw Canelo hit him with everything, and John Ryder didn't. I mean, Canelo wasn't able to move Callum Smith. But performance from Smith was very poor, whether he was drained or whatever. But I know that if Callum Smith gets in the ring with Demetrius Andrade, that would be a horrible fight for Andrade. Would be a very tough fight for Andrade. Especially after watching his fights against Liam Williams, man. Callum Smith is way better than Liam Williams. And so is John Ryder. So automatically, those fights would become tough fights for Andrade, for me. Right? And most importantly, Demetrius Andrade has said that I tried to fight Billy Joe. I'm trying to fight Caleb Plant. Does he not know that Canelo's been in the ring with both those guys? Canelo beat Billy Joe and he beat Caleb Plant, both by stoppage. And Demetrius Andrade has clearly said that I want to get in the ring with Plant and I tried to fight Billy Joe. Well, Canelo fought both of those guys. And he beat them. So the point I'm trying to make is, I get all of the stuff that Canelo's the cash cow and he gets the fights what he wants. But that's now rubbish, because Canelo's fought guys that Demetrius Andrade wants to fight. So you can't be going around criticizing Canelo's resume just because he's not fighting you. Here's the thing. A lot of you guys think that Ryder fight's easy, right? Because a lot of you don't know Ryder. And you think it's an easy fight. Probably is. Canelo knocks him out. It's not a fight that I'm really that highly excited about. But what makes you guys think that the Andrade fight won't be hard? And what makes you think that if Canelo hits Andrade with a right hand on the chin, that Andrade won't go to sleep? I mean, that might end up like an easy fight. See, when I speak to my brother, who doesn't have an emotional connection with Andrade, he thinks Canelo beats him easy. Most people that I speak to, even Ray, for example, when I speak to Ray, he doesn't think that Andrade causes Canelo any issue. Now, or any other guys, I speak to people that I speak to that don't have an emotional investment with Andrade, feel that Canelo will deal with Andrade pretty emphatically. But a lot of you guys have an emotional connection with Andrade, so what it does, it messes up your brain. Because you have an emotional connection with Andrade, you somehow think that Canelo's avoiding him, and when Canelo gets in the ring with him, Andrade would somehow beat him. Because of the fact that what you've seen in the past with Canelo. Let me tell you something. I've seen a lot of Andrade now. And enough to make a judgment on what I think would happen in that fight. And without any connection, and you can say, oh, well, you're a Canelo fanboy, you love Canelo, so you're saying that. No. I'm saying that I've already said to you, I think Bivol will beat Canelo in the rematch. I think there's many guys out there. David Benavidez, possibly. I don't know how good Benavidez is, but David Benavidez possibly might be dangerous for Canelo. But I'm not that highly impressed by Benavidez. I think Beterbiev would beat Canelo. So there's many guys out there. I even criticized the fact that when Canelo said he wanted to fight Usyk, because I said that would be no chance. But Demetrius Andrade, I am very confident that if Canelo gets in the ring with him, Canelo would deal with him, and deal with him emphatically. Emphatically. Right? And a lot of you that think it's a hard fight, it probably might end up being an easier fight than John Ryder. Might not be on paper, but it might end up being. Because fights aren't won on paper. It might end up being an easier fight. Where Andrade is in his career, and a lot of you made the fact, me and my brother were doing a video, and a lot of you were criticizing the fact, oh, get your facts right. Andrade's 34, he's not 30, because I think my brother said he's 36 or whatever. You're so fascinated about me getting every detail right about Andrade, about him being 30. The fact is, Andrade's old. Whether he's 34, whether he's 36, he's an old man. In boxing terms, he's old. And he's been around for a very long time, but yet you want to get me to get every fact right. Sometimes I don't get every fact right. Sometimes I'll say he's 35, 36, 34. It's all the same thing. If I'm 28 or I'm 30, we're around the same age. If you're 35 or 37, you're old in boxing. Or whether you're 34 or 36, you're old. And that's the point we were trying to make. Andrade is an old guy in boxing. He's not young. And he's been very inactive. So when we say that we think he's going to get wiped out when he comes up against somebody that's young, that's hungry, is because we're going off what we know about sports, that when you get to a certain age, you tend to deteriorate, right? It's just if you watch sport, you'll realize as people get older, they're not going to get any better. And we saw him against Liam Williams, and you can say what you want. He won every round. Again, you're pushing a narrative. He didn't look good in that fight. There was times he was wobbling against a guy that's not a top fighter. There was times he was on shaky legs against a guy that's not a top fighter. So you tell me, if Canelo gets in the ring with him, right? Even though Canelo might be on the slide, what's Canelo going to do? Because I think we'll all agree that Canelo would wipe out Liam. Liam Williams won't go 12 rounds with Canelo. I think all of you guys would agree with that. He went 12 rounds with Andrade. He won't go 12 rounds with Canelo. I can assure you that. And Golovkin would stop that Liam Williams as well. Even the Golovkin that fought Canelo would stop Liam Williams. I can promise you that. Right? Let's not forget, this is the same Liam Williams that afterwards fought Chris Eubank, that got dropped 4 times and was getting dropped by jabs. Got dropped by jabs. So, I mean, like, Andrade's resume is such that his resume over time gets worse. His resume doesn't even age well, because a lot of the guys that he's beating ended up going on and becoming worse. You know, and that oh man, it's hard to negotiate with people. It's hard to kind of talk to people where a lot of you guys have a certain perception, right? Certain perception that, oh, well, he's ducking him. Canelo can't fight everybody. And to be honest, he'll give people paydays that he wants to give paydays to. So he gave Caleb Plant a payday. He gave Billy Joe a payday. Now, what makes Andrade more deserving or better than those guys? Apart from your perception. I mean, Billy Joe was as talented as Andrade. I actually thought Andrade would beat Billy Joe if they had fought. I think Andrade was bigger. I think he would have beaten Billy Joe. But what I mean is they're similar. They're seen as similar level of fighters. Andrade hasn't done anything in his career that tells me that he's way better than Billy Joe, or he's not done anything in his career that tells me he's way better than Caleb Plant. So I don't see how the fights with Canelo would go any different than what I saw with Billy Joe and Plant. I think they would go exactly the same with Andrade. I think Canelo against Andrade will go exactly the same way. I think Andrade would give Canelo work. I think he would give him trouble, but I think eventually Canelo will get the job done because I don't think Andrade has the full package. He isn't. Because this is a guy that's wobbling against Liam Williams. If you're wobbling against Liam Williams, right, a right hand from Canelo Alvarez is going to do some serious damage. Right? Let's see how he looks against this guy, you know, who no one's heard of. Let's see how he looks. Now, and the other thing is, and this is so sad, that a lot of you guys call Ryder a bum, right? But when I criticize this guy, Damien guy, and I remember when I did a video and he's saying he's fighting who? You guys said I was disrespectful to this guy because apparently he works in a factory and he's a hard man and he's a great man and he deserves more respect from me. But yet you guys are openly calling John Ryder, who in my opinion, beat Callum Smith and beat Danny Jacobs, a bum. But yet, John Ryder doesn't deserve any respect. Yet, he's achieved far more than this guy in boxing, the guy that Andrade's fighting. But yet, you want me to respect the guy that Andrade's fighting. But yet, you don't want to give Canelo's opponent, who just beat the crap out of the guy that Andrade was going to fight. But yet, you don't want to respect him. And you want to call him a bum and say that Canelo's fighting a cherry. I mean, the hypocrisy and some of the stuff that comes out some of your mouths is weird. I mean, I don't understand. You know what you're saying. You can't say that. Ask me to give this guy respect, the guy I've never heard of, right? And if I've not heard of him, then clearly, especially with all the stuff that all the reading that I do on boxing, all the stuff that I do in terms of going on BoxRec, if I don't know somebody, the chances are that he's either unknown and he's a fighter that nobody's heard of, but he's a good fighter that could happen, right? Like a Mauricio Lara type. Or he's a guy that they've plucked out from somewhere that's just making up the numbers. So you tell me what category this Damon Nicholson fits into. Right? But the point I'm trying to make to you guys is you guys have double standards, because 1 minute you'll criticize Ryder, call him a bum, yet Ryder's beaten, in my opinion, got robbed against Callum Smith and beat Danny Jacobs, even though I thought he was lucky, given a good account of himself against Billy Joe in early on in his career when he wasn't that developed, and probably would be Andrade's toughest fight if Andrade fought Ryder. So the point I'm trying to make is that it's just the double standards that really irritates me at times, to be honest. So yeah, let's see. Let's see what happens. Let's see Andrade fight this weekend. See how he looks. Maybe he might be shot to pieces. Maybe he may look outstanding, but we don't know. The man fights once every 2 years. And he's not getting any younger. So, I mean, it's just natural for people to think that, he's going to be past his best. But we'll find out on the weekend. Leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.